My older brother was involved in criminal activities and had dropped out of college. At a family dinner, I disclosed a secret, and in a fit of rage, he pushed me hard, causing me to fall and break my wrist. As I rushed to the hospital, I plotted revenge and involved the police. But before they arrived, something unexpected changed my life forever. My name is Hazel Thompson, and I'm 16 years old. I live in Las Vegas, a city full of life and dreams, but right now, my life feels like it's teetering on the edge of chaos. My passion lies in environmental studies. I dream of making a difference in the world someday. My father, David, is an architect, dedicated to designing beautiful buildings that define our city's skyline. My mother, Karen, is a high school principal, tirelessly working to shape young minds. They've always been my inspiration, but their dedication only makes the current turmoil in our family feel more pronounced. That turmoil began with my older brother, Ryan, who is 20. Once my hero, Ryan was someone I admired deeply. We shared everything, from childhood secrets to dreams about the future. Our favorite spot was a park near our home, where we would spend countless afternoons swinging, laughing, and dreaming together. Those moments felt eternal, but lately, the light had dimmed. Ryan was supposed to be in his second year of college, thriving in a new environment. Instead, I noticed he had become distant, almost a stranger in our own home. The change was gradual at first, but it quickly became apparent. One evening, while I was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework, I overheard my parents arguing in the living room. "David, he keeps asking for more money. We've covered his tuition. Why does he need more?" My mother's voice was filled with concern, a tone I had come to recognize. "He needs to learn the value of money, Karen. We can't keep bailing him out." "Something is wrong," my father replied, his voice heavy with frustration. My heart raced as I listened, unable to ignore the growing pit in my stomach. What was happening to Ryan? The next few days felt like a ticking clock, each moment filled with unease. Ryan came home late, driving a flashy new car that I had never seen before. When I confronted him about it, he brushed me off. "It's just a loan, Em. Nothing to worry about." But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story. The expensive clothes he wore and the company he kept felt foreign to me. These weren't the friends I remembered. Feeling increasingly worried, I confided in my best friend, Chloe. We had been inseparable since kindergarten, sharing everything from dreams to secrets. "I'm really worried about Ryan," I said one afternoon as we sipped our drinks at our favorite cafe. "He's not the same person anymore." Chloe raised an eyebrow, trying to reassure me. "Maybe he's just stressed about college. You know how tough it can be? But what if it's more than that? What if he's involved in something dangerous?" I felt my anxiety spilling over. "Hazel, you need to tell your parents. You can't just sit back and watch him spiral out of control," Chloe urged, her tone serious. I hesitated, torn between loyalty to my brother and my growing concern for his well-being. But as the days passed, my worries intensified. Ryan's behavior was increasingly erratic. He was secretive, often on his phone late at night, and I could hear him arguing with people I couldn't see. It made me feel uneasy. The tension in our house reached a boiling point during a family dinner one night. We sat around the table, the air thick with unspoken words. "Ryan, how's school going?" my father asked, attempting to spark a conversation. "It's going okay," Ryan mumbled, avoiding eye contact. "Just okay?" I couldn't hold back anymore. "What about the money? Why do you need so much?" Silence fell like a heavy blanket, the atmosphere tense. My parents turned to look at me, their expressions a mix of shock and disbelief. "Hazel," my mother gasped, but it was too late. Ryan stood up abruptly, his fists clenched, eyes blazing with anger. "Thanks a lot, Hazel," he shouted before storming out of the house, slamming the door behind him. In that moment, the bond we once shared felt irrevocably shattered. I sat frozen at the table, the weight of what I had just done pressing down on me. My parents exchanged worried glances, and I felt a pang of guilt wash over me. Had I crossed a line? That night, I lay in bed, my mind racing. I couldn't sleep, replaying the dinner scene over and over. The fear and uncertainty loomed large, threatening to engulf me. I felt as though I was standing at the edge of a cliff, peering into an abyss. My brother was angry, and I didn't know if I would ever be able to reach him again. The storm was brewing, and I could feel it approaching fast. The days after that explosive dinner felt like a haze, each moment blending into the next. Ryan didn't come home for 2 days, and I was left with a gnawing sense of worry. My parents were tense, moving around the house with a weight that was almost palpable. I could see the concern etched on their faces, especially my mother's. "Have you heard from him?" she would ask Dad at least once a day, her voice tinged with anxiety. "Not since he stormed out," Dad would reply, his brow furrowed. "I think we should give him some space. He'll come around." But deep down, I felt something was very wrong. The atmosphere in our home had shifted. Our once happy family dinners were replaced by awkward silences and worried glances. I could hardly concentrate on my studies, the knot in my stomach growing tighter with each passing hour. Finally, on the 3rd day, Ryan came home. I heard the front door slam, and my heart raced. I cautiously peered out of my room, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. But as I stepped into the hallway, I froze. Ryan looked disheveled and worn, the anger from our last encounter replaced by a haunted look in his eyes. He didn't even glance my way as he trudged past me, heading straight for his room. "Ryan," I called out, my voice trembling. "Can we talk?" He stopped but didn't turn around. "I don't want to talk, Hazel." "But we need to," I insisted, stepping closer. "I'm worried about you. You haven't been yourself." He finally turned, and the pain in his eyes made my heart ache. "You don't know anything," he snapped. "You don't know what I'm going through? Then tell me." "I want to help," I urged, feeling a mix of frustration and desperation. "I don't need your help," he retorted, bitterness seeping into his voice. "You just want to play the hero. You have no idea how bad things are." At that moment, I realized how deep his struggles ran. I felt a mix of anger and sadness at the man standing before me. "I want to understand, Ryan, but you're pushing me away." With that, he turned and slammed his bedroom door, leaving me standing in the hallway, feeling helpless and frustrated. The next few days were filled with the same tension. Ryan kept himself, and I noticed he was making late-night phone calls that sent shivers down my spine. I could hear snippets of conversations, words like money and tomorrow punctuating the air. One evening, unable to bear the silence, I decided to confide in Chloe again. We met at our usual cafe, and I poured my heart out, explaining how Ryan's behavior had changed and my fear that he was involved in something dangerous. "I just don't know how to help him," I admitted, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. Chloe listened intently, her brows furrowed in concern. "Hazel, it sounds serious. What if he's mixed up with bad people?" "I've thought about that," I said, glancing around nervously as if someone could hear us. "But he won't let me in. I don't know how to reach him." "Maybe you need to be more direct," Chloe suggested. "If he's really in trouble, he might need a wake-up call. But be careful. You don't want to put yourself in danger." Her words struck a chord with me. I realized I had to take action. I couldn't just sit back and watch Ryan hurt himself any longer. But how? What could I do without betraying his trust even more? That night, I lay in bed, my mind racing. I decided I would confront him again, but this time, I needed to gather some evidence. I needed to know what was really going on in his life. My heart raced at the thought, but I felt it was necessary. The next day, I began to pay closer attention. I watched Ryan closely, noting his late-night calls and the strange friends who had come by the house. I felt like a detective in my own home, observing every detail. As the week wore on, I overheard a particularly heated conversation while I was doing laundry. "You have to pay us back, Ryan. You know what happens if you don't," a voice said, low and menacing. I froze, heart pounding. The realization that Ryan was entangled with dangerous individuals was sinking in like a heavy stone in my stomach. I knew I had to confront him, but I also understood that I needed proof, something concrete to back up my fears. That night, I quietly slipped out of my room and made my way to the living room. I waited, hidden in the shadows, straining to hear the conversation unfolding between Ryan and one of his friends. "Just give me one more week," Ryan pleaded. "I'll have the money. I swear." The chilling words echoed in my ears, and dread washed over me. My brother was in way over his head, and I was running out of time to save him. I felt an overwhelming urge to act. I had to protect my family, even if it meant betraying my brother. The choice was clear, but I knew it wouldn't come without consequences. The storm was approaching, and I could feel the winds picking up. The days following my eavesdropping felt heavy with uncertainty. My heart raced each time I passed Ryan's closed door, knowing he was trapped in a world of danger that I couldn't quite grasp. My resolve to uncover the truth only strengthened. I had to act before it was too late. One evening, I overheard Ryan in the living room, his voice raised in a heated argument over the phone. "I told you I'll get you the money. Just give me more time," he shouted, panic evident in his tone. My heart sank. I needed to know who he was talking to and what was happening in his life. With every fiber of my being, I felt the urge to confront him again. I couldn't keep hiding in the shadows while my brother struggled with forces I couldn't understand. That night, I waited until the house was quiet. As I stood outside his room, I hesitated, my heart pounding. "Ryan, can we talk?" I finally called, my voice barely above a whisper. "Not now, Hazel," he shouted back, frustration tinged with desperation. "Please, I'm worried about you." After a moment of silence, I heard his door creak open. He stood there, eyes wide with anger and something else. "Fear? What do you want?" he snapped, but I could see the vulnerability beneath his tough exterior. "I want to help you," I said, stepping closer. "I know you're in trouble. I heard you talking to someone. Who are they?" His expression hardened, and I braced myself for his reaction. "You don't know anything," he spat. "You think you're so much better than me, don't you?" "No, Ryan. That's not it," I pleaded, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I care about you. You're my brother. I just want to understand what's going on." For a moment, he looked torn, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "You wouldn't understand," he said, his voice softer now. "I got into something I can't get out of. Tell me, please," I urged, desperation creeping into my voice. "I can help you if you let me." Ryan looked away, the anger fading into resignation. "I owe money to some dangerous people. I thought I could win it back, but I was wrong. They're threatening me, Em. I don't know what to do." His confession felt like a punch to the gut. My brother, the strong protector I once knew, was drowning in his choices. "Ryan, you need to tell Mom and Dad. They can help you." "No, I can't. If I do, it'll ruin everything," he said, shaking his head furiously. "I can handle this, but you're not handling it. You're putting yourself in danger," I shouted, frustration spilling over. "Just drop it, Hazel," he yelled, and for a moment, we stood there, staring at each other, our hearts heavy with unspoken fears. I knew I had to act. Leaving him to handle it alone was no longer an option. I had to protect my family, even if it meant going behind his back. I needed evidence, something tangible to present to my parents that would make them understand the gravity of the situation. The next day, I began documenting everything I could about Ryan's activities. I recorded late-night calls, noted the names of his shady friends, and tracked the times they visited. Each detail felt like a clue in a twisted puzzle I was trying to solve. One night, while going through my notes, I overheard Ryan on the phone again, his tone sharp and frantic. "I can't keep putting this off. If I don't get the money, I'm in serious trouble," he said. The urgency in his voice sent chills down my spine. I grabbed my phone, feeling like I was crossing a line, but knowing I had to take action. I decided to tip off the police, hoping they could help Ryan without him knowing I was involved. I felt a mix of dread and determination as I dialed the number. "I need to report something concerning my brother," I said, my voice shaky but firm. "He's involved in illegal activities, and I'm worried for his safety." The officer on the other end listened carefully, and I could feel the weight of my decision settling in. I had crossed a line I never wanted to cross, but it felt necessary to protect Ryan. After hanging up, I felt a mix of relief and fear. The truth was out, but I had betrayed my brother. I was terrified of how he would react when the police came for him. My heart sank as I realized that there was no going back. In the days that followed, I prepared for the inevitable confrontation. I couldn't shake the feeling that my family was about to be torn apart, and I was at the center of it all. The storm was upon us, and I braced myself for the fallout. The following day felt like a ticking time bomb, each second stretching into eternity. I sat at home, my stomach churning as I waited for the police to arrive. I could barely focus on my homework. Every noise from outside sent my heart racing. My parents were unaware of what was about to unfold, blissfully ignorant of the storm brewing in our family. Finally, the doorbell rang, shattering the tense silence. My heart raced as I looked at the clock. 3 p.m. I had instructed the police to come in the afternoon when I knew Ryan would be home. My parents exchanged worried glances before my mother went to answer the door. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice shaky as she opened the door to reveal 2 uniformed officers. "Good afternoon, ma'am. We're here to talk to your son, Ryan Thompson," one of the officers said, his tone professional yet serious. My heart sank. I could see my mother's face pale as the implication sank in. "Is something wrong?" she asked, glancing back at me with wide eyes. "Ma'am, we have reason to believe that your son may be involved in illegal activities," the officer said, and the room fell silent. "Illegal activities? What do you mean?" My mother's voice trembled as she stepped back, her hand gripping the doorframe. Before I could respond, Ryan emerged from the hallway, his eyes narrowing as he spotted the officers. "What's going on?" he demanded, confusion mixing with anger. "Ryan Thompson, we need to talk to you about some serious allegations," the second officer said, stepping forward. "Allegations? What are you talking about?" Ryan's voice escalated, filled with defiance and fear. The officers exchanged glances before the first officer replied. "We have reports of gambling debts and threats to your safety. We want to help you, but we need you to cooperate." The look in Ryan's eyes shifted from anger to sheer panic. "You don't understand. I can handle this," he shouted, trying to retreat back into the safety of the house. "Ryan," I called out, stepping forward, my heart pounding. "This is serious. You need their help." He turned to me, his face a mix of disbelief and betrayal. "You did this, didn't you? You called them." His voice trembled with fury. "I did it to protect you," I shouted back, my own frustration boiling over. "You're in danger, and I couldn't just sit back and watch you drown." "Drown? You think this is helping?" he yelled, his voice echoing through the hallway. "You're ruining my life." The officers stepped in, their presence imposing as they tried to mediate. "Ryan, please, we just want to talk," one of them said calmly. "This isn't about punishment. It's about getting you the help you need." But Ryan's face was a mask of anger and betrayal. "You've betrayed me, Hazel. You think you're the hero? You're the reason I'm in this mess." He turned to the officers, desperation evident in his eyes. "I don't need help. I just need time." Before I could respond, the officers stepped forward. "Ryan, we need to take you in for questioning. It's for your safety. Stay away from me," he shouted, backing away until he was against the wall, eyes darting between the officers and me. "Ryan, please," I begged, tears welling in my eyes. "You can't do this alone. Let them help you." But the panic had taken over. He pushed past the officers, darting out the door and into the street. "Ryan, no," I screamed, but he was already running, desperation driving him forward. I watched helplessly as the officers sprinted after him. The chaos unfolded in slow motion. Ryan glanced back, fear in his eyes, and then disappeared around the corner. My heart raced as I stood frozen in shock. I had wanted to save him, to protect him, but now he was running away from the very help he needed. In that moment, I realized the gravity of my actions. I had betrayed my brother in an effort to save him, but now the bond we once shared hung by a thread. As I turned to face my parents, tears streaming down my cheeks, I knew that our family would never be the same again. Ryan had chosen his path, and I was left to wonder if forgiveness was even possible. The storm was far from over, and the aftermath would haunt me for years to come.